Welcome, my friends, to the show that never ends. It is absolutely stifling in here, to which you'll wonder, why am I wearing a scarf? Well, it's Christmas, and not just because I spilled curry sauce on my t-shirt. So, today's video is about the recent release of the 4K deluxe edition of Francis Ford Coppola's 1983 opus, The Outsiders. It was one of two S.E. Hinton adaptations that he made back to back. Just before this was Rumblefish, with Matt Dillon appearing in both, as well as a couple of other actors. Tom Waits makes small appearances in both. This is a new restoration and a new cut of the film, which he's called The Complete Novel. He's recently done Dementia 13 as a director's cut. Last year he did The Godfather 3 Redux, and changed the title to The Death of Michael Corleone. Obviously famously did Apocalypse Now, what do they call it, Redux, something like that, and then he did the final cut of Apocalypse Now. So I'm looking forward to the ultimate complete, final edition in a few years once he finally figures it out. The Outsiders is a film which I first saw at school, and as I said there, this edition is called The Complete Novel. One novelty, which I can add to that, is it's called The Complete Novel. Well, here is the complete novel, and this is the copy that I liberated from school in 2000. Yeah, 2000. We had an English teacher called Mr. Gormley, and he took the term off. He was struggling with his health, and for this slice of Americana, our substitute teacher who came to join us was indeed an American. He may have been Canadian. We don't ask questions, that's very rude. Called Mr. Johnston. So instead of a middle-aged Scotsman trying to teach us about gangs of the 50s in America, we had a young American to go there by, which was much more apposite, and he was a lovely man. In fact, he lived literally right across, I've shown you the houses across the road before. He lived right over there, and in case you doubt, look, Mr. Gormley's name's on it, and it says property of Strathclyde Regional Council. Strathclyde doesn't even exist anymore. We're Lanarkshire. I prefer Strathclyde. It's good. Happy memories. So yeah, this is the exact edition that I would be sitting in English going, reading as well. Had to take a turn. Right, you read that bit. You read that bit. So yeah, I thought it was quite fun that this new edition came out with, with the title of it even says St Thomas Aquinas Secondary School. It came out with the title of The Complete Novel when there is the novel, which I've had for all those years. I've also got a copy of Romeo and Juliet sitting that I stole from school as well. I'm not a thief. I'm a historian. I like to, it belongs in a museum kind of thing. Better in my hands than some school library that won't appreciate it. So back to the Blu-ray and UHD 4K. So we have one of Studiocanal's patented solid as a rock, absolutely massive box sets, which when you open up you find Mr. Ralph Macchio, currently undergoing a career renaissance thanks to Cobra Kai, and just some nice background there. More nice background here. I'm not going to show you absolutely every panel because, as you will see when I do this goes on, to quote The Who, you'd have to see for miles and miles. I mean, here's the start, and then it goes on and on and on and on and on. I mean, that was like the opening shot of Star Wars. So two 4K discs, two Blu-ray discs, which mirror the content. And then this, rather excitingly, because I love my music just as much as my movies, the soundtrack, which is composed mostly by Coppola. No nepotism, but the title track for the opening credits is co-written and sung by Stevie Wonder, and it's 1980. Well, I guess he would do that in maybe 82. So it's 1982, Stevie Wonder. So he hadn't quite disappeared up his own backside yet. We were getting there. We were about the time of That's What Friends Are For and Happy Birthday. Yeah. Once he did the album about plants, he should have just called it quits. I mean, he's done a few things since then, but right. So extras, very briefly, because you can have a read there for folks who don't even know well. But you've got all the content is the same on the 4K and the Blu-ray, so don't feel like you're missing out if you don't have a 4K player but you still want to pick this up. Future-proofing it. So you've got the complete novel, the new restoration and cut, an audio commentary with Coppola, audio commentary with Matt Dillon, C. Thomas Hill, Diane Lane, Rob Lowe, Ralph Macchio, and Patrick Swayze, which is obviously archival because, well, poor Patrick left us about 10 years ago, didn't he? He had one of those awful cancers. Was it prostate cancer, I think? Horrible. I liked Patrick Swayze a lot. I loved North and South, one of the best TV miniseries. And I'm not ashamed to say I like Ghost. I think Ghost's a fantastically fun film. But my favourite Patrick Swayze film, people would expect me to say Roadhouse, because I like a cult movie. My favourite Patrick Swayze film is To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar. Him, Wesley Snipes, and John Leguizamo as 3 drag queens. That'll do. So where were we? New restoration story with the head of archives at Zoetrope, who were obviously Francis Ford Coppola's film company. Interview with the cinematographer Stephen Burrum. Again, he's responsible for that lovely landscape that we saw. New deleted scenes, new looking at key scenes with Coppola, and new old house, new home featurette, which could be anything, and a new trailer for the restoration. Then you also get some old features such as a look back at The Outsiders, NBC's News Today from '83, 7 cast members: Rob Lowe, Patrick Swayze, C. Thomas Hill, Matt Dillon, Ralph Macchio, Leif Garrett himself. He knew a thing or two about being a teen idol for a minute or two, didn't he? And Diane Lane read extracts from the novel. Well, I could do that. I could read you the whole novel if you want. We'll just split it into different videos. Let's do that. S.E. Hinton on location in Tulsa. The casting of The Outsiders. Deleted and extended scenes separate from the new deleted scenes and the original trailer. And then, of course, the original Stevie Wonder and Carmine Coppola soundtrack. So pretty comprehensive to say the least, as Coppola's editions tend to be, as indeed Studiocanal's editions tend to be. Then to get a bit of the bump, you get some art cards. There's Emilio Estevez proving that the only thing less cool than a Mickey Mouse t-shirt is a Bill Haley bop. There's C. Thomas Hill enjoying the pleasures of being a young star. There's Francis Ford Coppola dressed as either Jerry Garcia or Dr. John, with some of his young cast. Matt Dillon at this point couldn't afford a t-shirt. Rob Lowe still has the 70s bouffant. There's Ralph Macchio himself. God, he's so young, isn't he? Even in My Cousin Vinny, when he was supposed to be about 30, and he was in real life, he still looked 14. There's Matt Dillon. A word about Matt Dillon, because he's probably the third biggest character in this. He plays Dally, or Daddy. There's a Dally and a Daddy. He started his career in a film called Over the Edge, which Arrow just put a Blu-ray out of. A stunning movie, an absolutely great film with a terrific soundtrack, where he plays a rebellious teenager who leads a gang. And then he moved on to Francis Ford Coppola's other S.E. Hinton adaptation, the Rumblefish, in which he played a teenager who is rebelling against authority and is in a gang. And of course in this he's a teenager rebelling against authority and is in a gang. So he was typecast, but I think typecast in the best possible way, because he was just magnificent in those roles. He wasn't being typecast because he's done them before. He was typecast because, God, he's good. Right up to Drugstore Cowboy, he was pretty much playing that part, wasn't he? Just the tough and beyond, which is why I think he quite enjoyed later on. He got to do stuff like Something About Mary and be a bit more silly with his career. But I always liked Matt Dillon. He's a very straight shooter in interviews. Here's your obligatory posters. So here's an original one, a period one, which makes it look more like a kind of horror thing, doesn't it? Like Tom Cruise there, how scary he is. I suppose his life is a bit of a horror story when you take into account the Scientology. Actually, probably shouldn't mention Scientology on YouTube, should I? We'll just we don't want to get into bother with them. Oh no. Zunu or whatever he's called will be after me. A big poster of the front cover. I won't bother opening it up, but you know what it's like. Doesn't it look like, first of all, an Aryan kid there, but doesn't it look like David Bowie and Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence there, see Thomas Hill. So if you haven't seen it, I should probably give you a very brief synopsis. Essentially, it's the rock and rollers versus the preppy kids. So they're called the Greasers and they're the Socias. So it's a bit of a coming of age film meets a more standard gang film like, say, The Wanderers, something like that. But I'd say it's a more down to earth film. You can tell it comes from something more literary than that. Although I do love The Wanderers, I won't hear a word against it. But it's got much more of a feel of, I'd say, something like the Last Picture Show than it does of just a pure gang film. It's nothing in it is gratuitous at all. The Diane Lane character is very underwritten, which is a problem in the film and not so much in the book, because they want to convince you that she and Ponyboy, played by S.E. Thomas Hill, have this great relationship and are, entwined and they'll probably be lovers. The problem is the most romantic relationship by far in this film is between C. Thomas Hill and Ralph Macchio. They have sexual chemistry coming out their ears. At one point, no spoilers about what actually happens, but they're on the run together and they have to sleep in a barn together, and they literally cuddle up, and yeah, it's a lovely relationship they have. It's not unintentional. It's not just a reading. I think it's very much intentional, or kind of put it into a teen film where I suppose at that age, when you're that close to someone. And Johnny, who's the Ralph Macchio character, is very much played as an outsider. You could easily believe he is in love with C. Thomas Hill. So yeah, it's a layered little film. And I mentioned The Last Picture Show. It has a lot of common with that as well, even in terms of the small town setting. And there is literally a picture show in it. There is a scene at a drive-in. They advertised this as coming with a badge. Unfortunately, it's really one of these cheap pins that you'd get for 50 pence on eBay. But it does have the classic Stay Gold, which is the creed of the film. Stay Gold is what Ponyboy and Johnny say to each other. as a kind of, you'll be okay, keep your chin up, kids, kind of thing. And it is quite poignant the amount of times it's used in different ways. And the Stevie Wonder song is called Stay Gold. So, it's quite a resonant little phrase once you watch the film itself. Finally, we'll have a quick look at the booklet. I say booklet, look at, it's nearly the size of the bloody book itself. And look, they even used the same picture as the front cover of my borrowed school book. Now, did I get the name right? Matt Dillon plays Dally, yes. C. Thomas Howell, Ponyboy. Ralph Macchio, Johnny. Yeah, I did not bad. Rob Lowe, Soda Pop. Emilio Estevez, 2-Bit. Tom Cruise, he's not in it much, but he's a bit of a party boy. Steve. And yeah, Tom Waits is even in it. He runs the kind of pool hall establishment that they hang out in. I guess he'd be like Al from Happy Days, to stretch that kind of metaphor. The Greasers and the Sausages are pretty much the Fonz versus the Cunninghams. So there's a lot of Happy Days parallels in a much darker way. As I say, the cinematography is by Stephen Barham. For the first half of the movie, it's all set in a small town. But later on, when they move out to the country, wow, it looks like some of Terrence Malick's work or Laszlo Kovacs was the DP, who was it, in Days of Heaven, beautiful sunsets and whatnot. And there's, the greatest romance ever told, they are. That is your love story, this film, trust me. The genesis of the production with original documents. So very comprehensive as usual. Francis Ford Coppola definitely doing his Jerry Garcia there. Come on. I mean, if you showed me that and said, who's that? Just be like, it's Jerry Garcia. Casting, on the set. Rob Lowe looking ridiculously handsome. Look at that. He may be St. Elmo's Fire to a lot of people, but to me, he will always be Sam Seaborn from The West Wing. The Outsiders and the complete novel comparison, so it's talking you through what's changed and why. What I like is Coppola always has rationale for these things. It's never changed for change's sake. It's always to his original intent. And look, letters from fans to Francis Ford Coppola. So that Jerry Garcia look was, he was obviously getting the kids. All those teenage girls were watching the Cotton Club, and they were thinking, I'm going to send my knickers to him. And look, there's a letter from a young Francis McNally, who even signs it Stay Gold. So the catchphrase was very ubiquitous. Once you see it, you will not forget it. Lena Dunham does an interview. She's the Girls. I've never seen Girls, but I know she's the person from Girls. Now here's the romance that's supposed to be about Dan Lane and C. Thomas Howell. Love Dan Lane, love C. Thomas Howell. It's weird to see him, everyone else in this went on to be megastars. C. Thomas Howell, B-movies, he did a few things, but B-movies. He popped up in Torchwood Medical Day. Less said about that, the better. Patrick Swayze, looking absolutely great there with Rob Lowe. Patrick Swayze, one of my unsung faves. C. Thomas Howell looking very GQ there, isn't he? Come and join the Third Reich. It's very 18. But there is a reason why he changes his hair colour, which becomes apparent again. I don't want to spoil anything. Johnny, not so lucky. He keeps that raggedy look throughout the film. Poor old Ralph. I'm so glad that he's had a comeback, because he seems like the nicest guy in the world. And I love Cobra Kai. I can't wait for Series 4. Matt Dillon again, we've seen enough of him. C. Thomas Howell. There's Emilio. The Bob looks a bit better there, but Mickey Mouse still irredeemable. He plays a good part though. He's along with Matt Dillon. It's the part where you think he's going to be one type of character and he turns out to be a much better type of character than you would imagine. And there you go, literally cuddled up together. Come on, that's not subtext, that's text. Great, you know, very ahead of his time. Here's some extracts from Coppola's workbook and shooting script. He worked quite closely with S.E. Hinton, who had script approval, and although she had reservations about some of the changes, there's the call sheet, she said, no, I've made my novel, now you make your film. It doesn't take my novel away, so ultimately I'll give you my feedback, but don't feel like you need to take it, which is the right idea for an adaptation, if you ask me. I love this stuff. Francis is an artist himself, and here's his own storyboards. I could, you know, as you saw with my last Waltz box set recently, I could just go through that kind of stuff for days. There's the film reels themselves, which again, the restoration process, a final word from American Zoetrope. You know, snapshot of the images taken from the restoration, which will show up a bit grainy here, unfortunately, but oh well. Interesting thing about, and there you go, look at that. And that's just Days of Heaven, isn't it? It's gorgeous. Interesting thing about American Zoetrope and this film, and the one that preceded it, Apocalypse Now, massive flop, nearly killed Coppola's career, nearly killed Coppola. He had a heart attack during the production. And then his next film was The Cotton Club, massive flop. So Zoetrope, the film company they ran in that Easy Raiders, Raging Bulls generation, was hemorrhaging money. So he realised he had to make low budget movies that potentially had higher awards, so try and pick the stars of tomorrow, you know, just nick them before they, and God almighty, I mean, Patrick Swayze, Tom Cruise, you know, I mean, he got the Brat Pack and whatnot before they were famous. I mean, you know, he did it. Rumblefish is probably a more artistic movie. This is an easier watch, but Rumblefish might be a better film, and it's got a more mercurial performance in it from Mickey Rourke as Motorcycle Boy. But I'd start with this personally if you've never seen either one, because this is a very easy watch and it's quite an absorbent film. And then watch Rumblefish, which is black and white, apart from, like Schindler's List, one bit of colour, which, oh, gorgeous. I don't want to say too much about that because it's so wonderful. And Stay Gold, there's your actual music sheet for that. I was about to say, without thinking, I was about to say there's no lyrics, but I guess Stevie Wonder really wouldn't need to read the lyrics off the sheet, would he? I waved at him once and he never waved back. What an ignorant bastard. And then there's your track listing for the soundtrack itself. So yeah, The Outsiders, that is your whack. So yeah, highly recommended film. Had a look at it earlier on, that's why it's already opened on HD to see what the 4K is actually like, and it just looks sublime. Looks like it could have been filmed yesterday, but it doesn't lose too much grain, so it doesn't look too clean, it doesn't look too tidied up. So there's enough in it to let you know you're watching an older film, but just looking the best it possibly can. And I don't think an 8K of The Outsiders is coming along anytime soon. We live in a golden age for boutique labels putting out these wonderful editions. So big films, not so much. You know, they don't come out with much these days, do they? Just, you know, maybe a featurette, but you know, these older films just get better and better restorations and special treatments and box sets, and long may it continue, because this is the best stuff for me. Better this than, I don't know, Zack Snyder's latest opus. He's my go-to guy. It's a bit lazy criticism, that really, isn't it? But yeah. Well, I won't keep you because I'm sure you're busy. So check it out if you haven't seen The Outsiders. If you have seen The Outsiders but you ain't seen it in a while, check this version out. You can also just get a plain Blu-ray version, so you don't need to buy the bells and whistles. You can just pick up the Blu-ray for 15 quid and it'll come down as well. So pick it up, enjoy it all over again if you've seen it before in a new version. If you haven't seen it, trust me, you will like it. It's a film that's just, it's almost impossible to not find something to latch onto, even if it's just the novelty of seeing all these megastars about 5 minutes before they were famous. So, that was The Outsiders. I've been David. This has been Thursday, is it? Yeah, Thursday. So I'm off to listen to what came out today. Frank Zappa's 200 Hotels 6 CD box set that came today. So that could be quite a slog depending on how it goes, because 200 Hotels is not one of my favourite Zappas, but needs must. So thanks very much for watching. It's appreciated. I'm trying to get a bit more content going, but I like to be in depth and just be more conversational. If there's anything in particular you want me to go over that that I like talking about, apart from Boris Johnson, because we'll be here for hours, then just drop me a comment. Thanks very much for watching. Take care of yourselves, especially these days with the new variants, and love and mercy to you and your friends tonight. Bye bye.